Recording in progress.
I call this meeting of the Planning and Development Committee for June 2nd, 2025 to order. And Councilman McCakey, if you would.
Now bow our heads, please. Thank you, Lord, for this wonderful day after a few days of rain, and thank you for a wonderful weekend for everybody. And give us discernment in this meeting today. Help us make the right decision for our community, and bless us as we move forward. And everybody in this room and on this council and on our staff and in the county does the right thing for our citizens and continues to make Greenville County a better place for all of us. And we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. The approval, I need a motion for the approval of minutes for the May 5th, 2025 minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
The following received a public hearing on May 19th and were presented to the Planning Commission on May 28, 2025. First docket, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First docket 29 was withdrawn by the applicant. First docket tonight is CZ-2025-030. Property is located at 317 Rocky Creek Road in Simpsonville. The applicant is Amber Hathaway Pierce of Oakwood Homes for Gary McGill Chandler and Edna K. Chandler. The 1.9 acre subject property consists of one parcel and is located approximately 0.07 miles east of the intersection of Rocky Creek Road and West Georgia Road, and currently contains a single wide manufactured home. This is the zoning of the surrounding area. Subject property outlined here is zoned PD, Planned Development District. The request is for RS, Residential Suburban District. You can also see the surrounding property zones. The applicant states the proposed land use is a single-wide manufactured home. This is the subject site and photo showing the area surrounding the subject site. Staff is of the opinion that the requested rezoning to RS, Residential Suburban District, would allow the parcel to return back to the original zoning district and would permit consistent land uses with the surrounding parcels. Additionally, based on historical imagery, it appears the property has been used as single-family residential since 1997. Based on these reasons, staff recommends approval of the requested rezoning to RS, Residential Suburban District. Greenville County Planning Commission also recommended approval. Mr. Chairman.
You heard the report from the staff. Any questions? So do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
So said, it's passed. Second, next docket, please.
The next docket is CZ-2025-031. Property is located at 2726 Fort Shoals Road in Piedmont. The applicant is Philip R. Dean of PRD Properties LLC for Douglas E. Sprayberry and Kimberly D. Sprayberry. The 13.64 acre subject property consists of one parcel and is located approximately 1.09 miles south of the interchange at Fort Shoals Road and Interstate 185, and currently contains single-family residential and vacant land. This is the zoning of the surrounding area. Subject property outlined here is zoned RS, Residential Suburban District. The request is for S1 Services District. You can also see the surrounding property zones. The applicant states that the proposed land use is an RV, boat, and self-storage facility. This is a subject and photo showing the area surrounding the subject site. Staff is of the opinion that a successful rezoning to S1 Services District would not be consistent with the Greenville County Comprehensive Plan designation of rural living, nor would it be consistent with the South Greenville Area Plan designation of transitional residential. Based on these reasons, staff recommends denial of the requested rezoning to S1 Services District. Greenville County Planning Commission recommended approval. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess there's a question for staff, really. With there being the S1, the property owner owning the S1 property next to it, and there being S1 in other locations pretty close, what was the reasoning behind that? I guess what allowed for the other to be rezoned to S1 without violating those same things that staff recommended denial for on this one?
So the existing S1 that you see directly adjacent to the property I believe that was existing commercial when this was initially zoned. It was initially zoned back in 1996 on the western side of the road and 1994 on the eastern side of the road. And so that property was initial zoned to S1 at that time. Since then, we've had more recent area plan and comprehensive plan, which have the more rural residential classifications, which is what staff typically have to make our recommendations based on.
Okay, and then my only other question to that would be, I remember this when we discussed it, but what, the property owner that's next to that, I think, came and spoke, and did he speak in favor or against? Do we have that information by chance? It seemed like he was in favor, but I can't recall.
I know he had some concerns about buffering from the property. I'm not quite sure. Do we have him Yeah, so he had concerns that he voiced about screening from that property.
Right, I was saying something like, he wasn't, it was opposed, he was just concerned about having the separation between the two. Okay, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mitchell.
My questions are similar to Chairman Blunt. As I recall, the resident next door had questions about screening, but didn't really have any opposition to what he was doing there. So I'm trying to understand, other than it doesn't fit with a more recent county plan, what's the damage, potential damage, that will occur if we approve this to be in line with what's right next door?
So some other potential uses in S1, they could do general warehousing, some service, lighter industrial type uses, things of that nature. Like I say, for the most part in this area, we do have this one patch of the existing warehouse and storage that's next door on the S1. For the most part, we see the property kind of abutting some larger, more rural residential lots, which were more in line with what comp plan and the area plan called for. So that's really what staff leaned towards in this case.
Okay.
But
So the planning commission approved it, though, or recommended approval.
they did.
And did they say anything other than they recommend approval? Did they give any justification?
They did. So to their points, since there is some existing S1 here, I believe one of their points was you would need some sort of commercial serving a community, providing some needs. And since it's adjacent to some existing S1, they felt, if you were to keep it grouped, provide some other commercial type uses out here. I believe that's probably one of their arguments. Then I believe there was some other talk about not wanting more dense residential in this area. Under the comprehensive plan designation, it really only calls for about 1 unit per 2+ acres, whereas the area plan would be 2 to 3 units per acre. So,
Yeah.
I don't know that we would recommend any sort of dense residential zoning for this area, but I think primarily it would just be commercial next to commercial.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr.
He answered my question.
Okay.
What does the, Mr. Chairman, sorry, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What does the buffer look like? So what does that entail? That was my big question this time is, are we talking a 6-foot berm with bushes you can't see through? What's the delineation that it has to be? It's kind of vague.
Yes, so based on the acreage of the property, if it's 10 or more acres in size, they would have to have a minimum 25-foot wide buffer adjacent to residential. That would need to be a landscape buffer. They really, for screening, only have to have a minimum of 6-foot tall screening, and that could be with an opaque fence or wall or evergreen plant material. But that's really the requirement, that 25-foot minimum buffer width, and then a minimum of 6-foot tall opaque screening.
Okay. I think because the last time, I mean, from that guy, when the neighbor came and spoke, he just wanted to be sure there would be a screening there. He was just worried there was going to be none. And that he didn't want, rental, or excuse me, storage units 5 feet off his property, I think was his concern, if I remember correctly. So, but he didn't seem too opposed to it if there has to be a buffer.
That's the way I remember it, too.
Yeah.
Dr. Vance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Remember my old saying, once S1, always S1. What he says sounds fine, but sometimes these things never materialize as to what you say. And let's say he decides he doesn't want to do it, and then he sells the property. Then you got S1 there, and God only knows what, and then we're sitting here with like egg everywhere. If everybody was truthful, that works. But we've been here long enough to know, that's not always the case. If that's what he's going to do, I think it's fine. If he doesn't do that, then we got hoodooed again. Is there not a way for it to do a minimal FRD, not drawings and make them jump off the moon, but something simple that would hold him specifically to that?
He submitted that, didn't he? I think there was a submission.
He did submit a site plan with his application, but since this is a standard rezoning, staff, we can't put a lot of faith in that just because he's not necessarily tied to it.
Can we tie it? Can we
You
tie that to an
if he
approval?
does an FRD or plan development or something like that, but just a straight rezone, we're stuck.
So can we ask him to, if we hold it, and then ask him to put it to that, to where you can put restraints on and guarantee that's what happens?
That would be a lot better. That would just keep opening us up to tell us anything and then it's something else.
Would he have to resubmit if we change this zoning, though? Would he have to start it? Because I'm thinking, just because I've had to deal with this before, he would have to basically start the process over, though, correct?
I'll answer. Oh Lord, I'll answer that. Excuse me. So sometimes you, as the body and the committee and council, can change a rezoning request on the floor with the consent of the applicant. In this situation, if we were going to a review district or something like that, it would have to go back to the beginning because we would need all the plans to be submitted. Staff would need time to review it. We would have to send it out to various agencies. If it triggered a traffic impact study, we would need that to be able to be reviewed by DOT or county staff, roads and bridges. So there's a lot of different things when it comes to a review district. We would need it to go all the way back, be submitted, and go through that whole review process.
And then there's just, and I think you've already answered this question, but just make sure I'm understanding it. There's no way under an S1, there's no way to have an S1 with conditions.
No, the only conditions are review districts.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And I'm not trying to make the man start over. I'm not.
I'm trying to figure out every way not to.
I'm trying not to. I mean, if there was a way to tighten this up without making him start over and go through all the exhaustive stuff y'all make him go through with FRD.
Yeah, the only minimum thing would be a neighborhood commercial. That's kind of what I like to say, like a mini review district in essence, because not as much is required. But this use would not be a permitted use in neighborhood commercial.
Right.
Is the applicant here?
Right here.
Is it okay to ask a question of the applicant? I guess I was just going to ask it concerning the other property owner. I can't remember because it's Memorial Day and everything else has been so long. Did you discuss agreeing to some kind of terms of a?
So we can get for the record.
State your name and your.
I'm Philip Dean. I'm applicant. I have spoken to the neighbor. I spoke with him at the meeting. I spoke with him afterwards. His only concern was buffering. He wanted to make sure that there was going to be something over there between he and I. And I emailed the site plan to y'all. I provided it to them also. Just to address the concerns that y'all have about whether I will or won't do it, I 100% will do it. This will be the third facility that I've built like this. I built another one, went through the same rezoning. Councilman Dill had the same comments that he had about, well, you can do anything you want to. And I promised him, I said, I won't let you down. I'll do what I tell you I'm going to do. And he made the comment, he said, well, make sure you do, because I'll remember if you don't. So
Right.
You can zoom out a little bit, you can see another storage facility a few miles down the road. I will do exactly what I've got right there. Just for the record, there's I-1 directly across the road.
Right.
And just for the record, I own that piece of property over there also, and makes more sense to do it on this site, because I'm going to use the existing entrance to have a lesser of an impact on the community, and I can use my existing office, existing facilities, everything's there. It just makes sense to do it right there, as opposed to across the road where I've got to essentially build another facility.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. I just wanted to ask and make sure. I couldn't remember
Yeah.
where
But
the conversation
Yeah,
went.
he didn't have a problem. He and I have spoken afterwards, and I think what he saw was a zoning sign, and he didn't know what was going on. He
Sure.
just wanted to make sure, and then he and I have spoken. I've been in business there 3 years. In the 3 years I've been there, I've never had a complaint from any of the neighbors, even during the construction phase. When I ran the other one down the road, never had a problem with anybody, because I want good neighbors and happy neighbors, because they end up sending me customers.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody what? Thank y'all.
I guess the only other question I have that might be context for us making a decision is, he mentioned he owns the property adjacent or across the street. Is that another area where he could do the same kind of thing if he wanted to anyway? So that to me, that kind of speaks a little bit to it as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So he owns the I-1 parcel?
Yes, across the street, yes. Any more discussion? Do we have a motion?
In good faith of our constituent in Greenville County, I'll make a motion to approve.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Approved. Next docket.
The next docket is CZ-2025-032. The property is located at 1801 Rutherford Road, Delmar Avenue, Sunnydale Drive, and East Bellevue Road in Greenville. The applicant is Nathan Kirkman of D&K Development for UCP Heddle Greenville LLC. The 50.049 acre subject property consists of 2 parcels and is located approximately 1.1 miles northeast of the intersection of Rutherford Road and North Pleasantburg Drive, and currently contains an industrial and business use development. This is the zoning of the surrounding area. Subject property outlined here is zoned I-1 Industrial District and S1 Services District. The request is for PD Planned Development District. You can also see the surrounding property zones. The applicant states that the proposed land use is a mixed-use development. The applicant is proposing to allow the development of residential and additional commercial uses on their existing site. Uses allowed on the site would be those permitted in the S1 Services District, with some exceptions, as well as other uses such as multifamily and single-family attached residential, retail, and industrial service. New townhomes would be 2 to 3 stories and range from 1,500 to 1,800 square feet. Multifamily structures would be podium style over 1 level of parking. Materials would include brick, metal, and residential siding. There would be 3 full access entrances off of Rutherford Road, Delmar Avenue, and East Bellevue Road. Parking will be shared across the development, and new 5-foot sidewalks installed along street frontages. There would be a 25-foot external landscape buffer where the property abuts a residential parcel, and a minimum of 10 acres of open space. Signage would adhere to the Greenville County sign ordinance, and lighting would be a maximum of 16 feet and full cutoff. This is the subject site and photos showing the area surrounding the subject site. Staff is of the opinion that the request for PD Planned Development District for a mixed-use development would not be consistent with the planned Greenville County Comprehensive Plan designation of industrial. This land use designation does call for warehousing, manufacturing, highway, commercial, and open space, but does not include residential development. Staff also has concerns about the viability of the Rutherford Road access point, which would require the construction of a right turn lane adjacent to a railroad. Additionally, the preliminary development plan shows the residential component to be built on the western side of the property, with the closest road access off of Delmar Avenue, a relatively narrow local road. The alternative would be for residential vehicles to pass through the commercial and industrial areas of the site to utilize other accesses, potentially causing internal congestion. Based on these reasons, staff recommends denial of the requested rezoning to PD Planned Development District. Greenville County Planning Commission also recommended denial. Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion?
Is this the one with all the emails?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Was this, and if I'm correct, if you go back to the site design, please, right there, Building 2 could be an additional 300 units, is that correct?
So Building 2, I believe they could have up to an additional 200 multifamily units or 75 townhome units.
Has anyone ever here been on Ruther Road about 4
Yeah.
o'clock?
Yeah.
It'd take you like an hour to go half a mile? We're saying, and so up to 600 units?
Yes.
So is that including the extra 200 at Building 2 or including the
That's
200?
included. 600 was total.
Yep, that would be the maximum potential.
How many, when you staff and you do planning, how many cars per day, trips do you do per house or per unit?
That would be determined by the traffic engineers that do the traffic impact study and then DOT when they review it.
At least 2 trips a day? Is that
It's less for multifamily, but it's a significant impact.
at least 1,200 more cars? I mean, close. 1,000? Is that, I don't know, you guys have been doing this a lot longer than me. Is that a fair assessment, 1,000 cars?
At least, I would say.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say just publicly, I think that, we have 2 pretty clear recommendations from staff and the Planning Commission, but I do have to say that I've never got as many emails from the public who can be very critical on development sometimes, who've not completely been opposed to something as much as this one. They actually like a lot of components, but that one specific thing is a pretty serious one. They like the commercial aspect and the fact that they would not have to obviously go to another part of Greenville that is congested, but they're concerned about the traffic. So I just wanted to submit that, saying I don't think the plan altogether is horrible. I just think the residential component is what's really kind of putting a clog in the wheel.
Any other discussion? Need a motion?
Make a motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This is denied. Next docket, please.
The next docket is CZ-2025-033. The property is located at 210 Earl Drive and Larry Court in Greenville. The applicant is Kamal Desur of Adams Recycling for R&K Equity LLC. The 9.005 acre subject property consists of 1 parcel and is located approximately 0.21 miles west of the intersection of Earl Drive and Whitehorse Road, Highway 25. Currently contains vacant land. This is the zoning of the surrounding area. Subject property outlined here is zoned RM20 Multifamily Residential District. The request is for AG Agricultural Preservation District. You can also see the surrounding property zones. The applicant states the proposed land use is agritourism. This is the subject site and photos showing the area surrounding the subject site. Staff is of the opinion that successful rezoning to AG Agricultural Preservation District would not be consistent with the Riverdale Tanglewood Community Plan designation of mixed use, nor would it meet the intent of the AG Agricultural Preservation District, which was created to preserve prime farmland and forestry areas. Based on these reasons, staff recommends denial of the requested rezoning to AG Agricultural Preservation District. Greenville County Planning Commission also recommended denial. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any discussion? Chairman Blunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just for information for me, but on the map, when you look at it, obviously, there are things there that don't look to me like they would be allowed and under the current zoning. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and for additional information, and this, the stuff that's on it, from someone wanting to go to agricultural, would that not take, I mean, could you just literally clear that land and start planting stuff and hope that there's nothing in the ground that's not going to be affected? I mean, I didn't want to ask about it in the other meeting because I figured this would be a better place to address it, but that just looks like I wouldn't want to eat fruit from that ground at the moment anyway. So I get, my other question, just to get the question out, is when we consider rezonings, is there nothing in our codes or our rules that would make you have to come into compliance before you could rezone a property?
So typically, if there is an existing nonconformity on a property, then before you can go through the rezoning process, it sort of depends on what the nonconformity is. In some cases, you would have to come into compliance. Other times, that would have to happen. If the rezoning took effect, then you immediately have to start coming to compliance. Any new use has to meet the new zoning. In this instance, like I said, there is enforcement action on the property. They are in the process of getting it cleaned up, but it would not stop. It would not be a case where it would stop the rezoning from going through.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also just like to add on that, we do have a provision in the zoning ordinance that allows someone who is put in violation of something, the ability to submit an application for whether it be a rezoning or Board of Zoning Appeals, which will stay that violation during the process. Now, we made some amendments to that to where you kind of only get one. You can't abuse the system, but to just give those people that, maybe just don't know that they're, what the issue is, the ability to correct the action before further enforcement was taken.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. King.
Is it true when we rezone to ag, doesn't that give you some more actually larger leeway in moving land, building buildings? Pretty much, it's kind of the Wild West, not to use that term for the agriculture. As I'm saying, like, if we give this zoning, I think we're putting ourselves out there to let him pretty much do whatever he wants. I'm putting that out there, and I defer to and you guys know this and the staff, but to me, agriculture is pretty much, hey, you can do whatever you want with it. So, put up buildings, you can do a lot of stuff. So I think we need to be really careful with this one. It just kind of spooks me. The agriculture is kind of Wild West when I read it. So tell me where I'm wrong or what I'm missing. That's my thing. I feel like I'm missing something that's 3 or 4 orders down.
You talking too much about it. It's going to be a big no. I mean, I don't know why we still having this conversation. And I'm like,
I think it's
how long
more
are we
just
supposed
for
to sit here with this.
I think it's just more for a general understanding of something like this that ever comes up in the future.
It comes up
It's-
frequently, at least once a year.
Yeah.
It's something different.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, man. It's your district.
The only thing I got to say is, all the stuff that's on there now, they're talking about clearing everything and making all of this land agriculture, or did they present something that shows just a portion of it,
The parcel in its entirety.
the entire parcel?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We want the motion, man. It's your district. Well, you don't plan on making one for your own stuff.
We're not at the motion stage yet.
Well,
We're still discussing.
any more discussion? Any more discussion? Do I have a motion on the floor?
I make a motion to deny.
All in favor of denial?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is denied. Next docket, please.
The remaining rezoning dockets have all been withdrawn. I believe next on the agenda are various text amendments.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the next item, item 5, the Land Development Regulations Amendment to the Design Standards. This was presented previously. It's gone to first reading, and it's back before you now. I think Councilman Shaw is here and can probably answer any questions or provide some additional information on that. So I'll turn it over to him. And I think he's on the next one too as well, right? Correct. Okay.
Yes, sir, Councilman Shaw.
Thank you. I wore a cheerful jacket today to make y'all cheery. Okay, this one, I'm going to ask, I think you already put it on hold. You said it had some good ideas in it. Maybe its place is somewhere else. I'm willing to withdraw it. I will say that it was brought to me by the conservation community years ago, and I brought it for them, and they're not here. I've asked them to come and support it, but none of them have. So I'm okay with it coming off the docket, using some of the ideas in other areas of amendments we make.
So what is the process for this? Do we just withdraw it?
Well,
Deny it.
technically,
Deny
you
it.
can't
You
really
can't.
withdraw that, but with what Mr. Councilman Shaw said, it would be appropriate, I believe, for the committee to just deny it and, not send it forward. Since this is an LDR amendment and not a zoning text amendment, zoning text amendments, zoning amendments have to be moved forward, but the LDR amendments do not. So that this could be essentially dealt with in committee and not move forward to full council. If there was a motion made to just, deny the ordinance.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Blunt?
just to make sure, if we were to deny it, would it be something where, like what Councilor Shaw was suggesting, where we could take pieces of this and submit it for different, this wouldn't postpone that process as long as it wasn't the same thing?
No, sir, that's
Okay.
correct. That's absolutely correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, yeah, I'm not, my feelings aren't hurt if you deny it, and it's certainly, I know it's better to clear this off the docket and take it up somewhere else.
Any other discussion?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Based on the wisdom of Counselor Shaw and from our legal department,
I move this be denied.
All in favor of the motion is to be denied, say aye.
Aye.
This is denied. Next, takes a minute.
Mr. Chairman, item 6 is Land Development Regulations Amendment, Section 15-102. I think this is also Councilman Shaw.
Thank you, Zoning Administrator Henderson. This one is important, and I do care about this one a lot. This is the Paris Mountain. Although on the green sheet that I got, I don't think the ordinance is on there. This is the one that would strengthen the language at the beginning about the purpose of the ESDPM. Is that correct?
No.
No, this is not that one. That one's at item number 8.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do know this one. Okay, this is this was another attempt to fortify the procedures for the benefit of the public at Planning Commission. We considered this already. I think you might have put it on hold. I think the ideas are really good, but it may be something that you want to amend other areas of the LDRs to make these recommendations. So I wouldn't be.
You're asking for a lot on this, right?
They're really good ideas. It's given the public more time, more input. We could, if you did want to pass it, I would definitely meet with the Planning Commission to try to get their blessings on it. But we can make these amendments in other places.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I like the meat of it, 99% of it. There's one thing I think I would change, but other than that, I'd be happy with it because I think a lot of times we ask the applicant, "Have you met with the community?" And just in my short tenure here, I've probably heard more no's than yeses, which kind of disturbs me because I think if you're trying to build inside of a community, you want to get that community on board with what you're doing, and it really helps with everything. So I would say 99% of this I'm in agreement with. The one thing I'd like to change, Mr. Shaw, is that the last there in 3.3.3, if you're amicable to it, we could make a change to the very last sentence about, however, the Greenville County Planning Staff shall make no recommendations. I would like their recommendation, whether it's a recommendation. I don't have to listen to them. I don't have to do any of that. I can, we have the power to, that's why we're up here to do what we want, but I still would like to hear what they have to say. So when I read through it, my really only beef was that I do want to hear what they have to say because it might be something I missed or something. I'm not a planner per se. That's not my profession. They don't tell me how to fly airplanes. I'm not going to tell them how to do this kind of stuff. So that was my only beef with this, is to take that out because I would like to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I might have actually, I did speak with the Planning Commission about this. I think the recommendation part is absolutely fine. Where I got it wrong was I think they want more explanation of why there's a recommendation, maybe to spend more time, if staff could spend more time explaining the purpose and the reasoning behind it, not just recommend or not recommend.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure we point out that this will significantly change the review process, the timeline, the calendar, and the way staff reviews. So just keep that in mind as far as the timeline from beginning to end for the developments that go through this process.
Could you give us an example, like not specific, obviously, but how much longer could this draw the process out?
Hi, to introduce myself, I'm Megan Staten. I'm the subdivision administrator. So if these changes were to be made, we would have to have a pre-application and a pre-submittal meeting. Currently, the only types of developments that are required to have a pre-submittal meeting are unzoned. That's outlined in Article 22, which was added back in, I think, 2020. This would make every subdivision have to have one. So some months we get submittals of roughly 15 preliminary plans. Each of those pre-submittal meetings are 30 minutes long. Currently, we have slots for 6 of them per month due to staff time. If we were required to take in that many, it would take about 7.5 hours to get through all of the meetings per month if you had a 15 application month of meetings. So you would have to plan out those to be done first. That's done a month in advance of your preliminary plan application deadline. But if you add a community meeting ahead of that, you would also have to be a month ahead of that. So you're talking about 2 months additional to the preliminary plan timeline. Currently, preliminary plans take 2 to 3 months to go through the full process and get to Planning Commission. But with this, it would take probably closer to 5 or 6 months. But also considering that probably not every application would be able to be reviewed or make it to a pre-application meeting just due to how many we get. Some would probably have to wait a month or so based on staff availability. They may be waiting roughly 6 or 7 months to get through that process at that point.
Okay. That gives me a good idea. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Did you have a question?
If you got to add something else about this, it's pertaining to this, but it's different.
I did want to speak a little bit on SAC. So currently, SAC is a meeting of technical members. We deliver our comments after a review period of a week reviewing the plan to engineers and applicants who come to that meeting. If the public were a part of SAC, which we want the public to be involved, and I make a point at every meeting to let the public know that I'm there to answer their questions and that we want their public comments because that's really important to the Planning Commission. In the event that the public is included in that SAC meeting, the meeting, basically they would be speaking to technical reviewers who don't have a decision-making authority. Right now, Planning Commission doesn't attend SAC, so we may be spending extra time with the public, but their public comment period may not be, directed at the correct people at that point. Whereas in a public, they have a public hearing before Planning Commission that same night, and the Planning Commission listens to them about that application at that meeting. And that might be the more appropriate place for them to be involved and let their feelings be known about those applications.
And I think I don't know how that works into this, but I think if there could be a way to involve the public more in the process without it necessarily coming where it is in this proposal, it still would be good, because I know one thing that at least I do, and I'm sure some of my colleagues get beat up on sometimes, is with subdivisions, because we don't have direct control over that, but we get called every time they see the ground breaking on it. So to have the public more involved, I think if we could figure out a way to do it where it's not just overstressing, I would like to do that, because I think it would help council out a lot just for us to know more about what's going on. But I just don't know how that fits into this currently. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Pant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I tend to think we may be creating a problem for the sake of creating one that doesn't exist. I haven't been to that many planning commission meetings, but the few I've been to, they last too long. They last so long, I've not stayed till one's over, okay? It's dark when they finish. Now, my question is to staff. The few times I've been, I've seen the developer, I've seen people opposed get up and talk. I've never seen it weighted one way versus the other. For them to stay till it's dark, it appears that they let everybody on every side say whatever it is they have to say. Am I wrong?
You're correct.
Okay. I have not seen, the times I've been, I have not seen the public shut out. I mean, they talk on and on and on to the point that they do. That's what I'm saying. They have the right to speak. I'm not seeing them cut off or not given the opportunity to participate. So to make it mandatory that there's so many minutes provided, I think we're creating a problem because I've not seen the public not be allowed to participate, and I've seen it weighted both sides. I've never seen them like, we don't want to hear from the public. Just now, if that's going on, I mean, I need staff to say, because I've only been 2 or 3 times, but the 2 or 3 times I've been, I've seen everybody on both sides talk.
Yeah, just 10 minutes given per side.
10 minutes per side.
They're asking for 20.
So you wanted to go to 20 per side?
Well, it might be just, what I had heard is that it's the follow-up that's the problem, is that when there's follow-up questions maybe asked by Planning Commission, the developer is often given a lot. That time is stretched for the developer, especially able to answer follow-ups, which can be the last word a lot of times. So when you get to follow-up, you kind of have an advantage where maybe the public doesn't feel like they got the counter to that follow-up.
I will say that once questions began from, and we do this with public hearing for rezonings as well, once questions start, we stop the timer. We do not penalize the applicant or anyone in opposition or anyone in favor that, excuse me, speaking. If they're asked a question, we stop the timer and allow that conversation to commence. So it is not being timed.
So that's why it's dark when they leave? Okay. I just say we create a problem. It's not there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So my understanding is this, we don't need public comment time at the SAC. Is that correct, Megan?
That's correct, because there's no decision maker
There's no decision maker
present.
there. Okay.
Right.
So where we need to have that is, and Mr. Shaw, may I ask you, is you're saying is we need more time afforded at the planning commission meetings to allow more than 10 minutes per side? Is that what you're asking? As I read through this, it says 20 minutes, it's now 10. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and it may be something that needs to be figured out how to do this, but it seems like it's not as much the time, it's the quality of the time, and it's the follow-up, not being able to respond to a follow-up by the developer, so the developer can maybe get the last word. That sounds great. And
So it's like in baseball, right? They don't get another up at bat, is what you're saying, to kind of answer back. Can we put this on hold and maybe come back to this and say, hey, there's some good merit to what you're trying to do, but let's get some input from the Planning Commission on how to best do this, rather than us creating a problem that, like you're saying, there may be a problem?
I see exactly what you're saying. And the few times I have gone, Councilor Shaw, the developer says his piece, then the people that's against it get up and say their piece, and then the Planning Commission sits there and asks the developer additional questions. And so it looks like it's skewed towards the developer, not against the thing. Maybe we need to talk to the chairman and say, y'all need to balance it more and don't give the appearance that you're, I don't know, let's work on it. I get it, but I don't think it's an attempt to squeeze the public. I think it's just a procedural thing that gives a bad perception, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I just want to ask this to see if, because I don't know how this process works since we're not involved with it, but I know when we're making those decisions, we get petitions and things like that from the public. Is there a system in place to where before the process starts, where it's an easy access portal for citizens to go and submit concerns so it can be given to the department before it reaches the planning commission?
Yes, we have a public comments email address. It's actually publiccomments@greenvillecounty.org. And at every SAC meeting, I announce to the public to reach out, and it's on our website as well, for them to email any concerns. And those concerns get emailed directly to the planning commissioners as soon as we see them in our inbox.
One last thing, I know it's a sensitive subject, but this problem does get fixed in the UDO. It's just a little sensitive subject, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Let's just hold it for the moment, and at least we can work on something in the interim so it doesn't look so weighted toward the developer.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Councilman Allen.
Dr. Fant, you were reading my mind, apparently. In January, a statement was made that we were going to reconsider the UDO. And now it looks like instead of going back and identifying the issues that councilors had with the UDO, we're going back to all the things that were supposed to roll up into the UDO, and we're picking each one of those and trying to fix the little elements in that. Why don't we address the issues of the UDO that will impact these things in the first place, and then we can just move on? Mr. Chairman.
Well, there's two councilmen who have addressed the issues and have sent them that I'm aware of to staff, and some of those have been put in the UDO, but the other 10 councilmen that I'm aware of hadn't interjected any input whatsoever into the UDO, so that's where it's sitting where it is at this point.
Has that been shared with council as a whole?
No, it has not.
Because I was one that really
Yes, it was.
asked to see some information. What are the issues with the UDO so that we can try to work on and address?
Yeah, and I think,
It may be.
I don't know the date, I don't remember when we discussed, but I think it's really just been held until we decided on a certain time in June or July, we were going to wait to bring it back up and discuss. And I don't remember what that was right now off the top of my head, but that's probably why information hasn't come back out to council yet. It's just we haven't got to that point yet.
So we don't even have the opportunity to see and understand what the issues were, so that we can try to look at the UDO ourselves and say, okay, well, I understand, and I go along with that. Or this is addressed in the UDO, and we can move ahead.
Yeah, well.
I just like to identify what the problems are.
Sure.
So
Well,
I can tackle it.
as far as my position goes, I'd be happy to share with P&D as well as council any of the issues I had. Of just, I'm only one person. I'm only one person, so. But no, I don't disagree. I think that I agree with what you're saying, that it doesn't really do any good to address the ordinance if we're going to go through and piecemeal stuff leading up to addressing the ordinance. So I think that maybe we should have a meeting, hopefully after we get the budget passed us, and we talk about all of it. Just have a workshop and hash that out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Dr.
discussion? What do we want to do with this?
I make a motion to hold so that we can discuss with the Plan Commission and council and come up with solutions if there's a way to salvage it and make it workable, and if not, then we'll bring it back and vote the other way. Make a motion to hold.
We have a motion to hold. All in favor?
Aye.
This is held. Next text amendment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is item 7. This is request to initiate a text amendment to the Greenville County zoning ordinance for the addition of the R2 and R4 zoning districts. I can answer any questions. I know Councilman Fan is.
No, don't say it's from me, because 2 or 3 of them be against it just because
No, I'm not saying it's not. I know that you were looking at this, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'll start off, but I'm going to let you do the explaining.
That works.
Mr. McGahee, since the idea of getting rid of cluster, which I don't like cluster, but I do think it serves a purpose in some instances. If, for example, if I buy 100 acres at $50,000 an acre, I just spent $5 million. If my $5 million and my 100 acres are buildable, I don't want to have to throw $1.5 million down the drain for open space. The other thing that has happened, the developers are getting a third more houses in cluster than the original zoning even allows, even after the open space. If there's a situation where there's 100 acres and 30 of it is hard rock cliffs and floodplain, flood zone, maybe. But I don't like the fact the way it is now. So I plan to support getting rid of cluster. However, if we get rid of cluster, which I'm in favor of getting rid of cluster, and if we go to just straight zoning, if you go to straight zoning, that takes the subjectivity out of it. It takes these lawsuits that we come up on every other month. It will. So here's the thing I'm thinking, which I heard from the developers. If you get rid of cluster, I know you don't like the fact that we squeeze the extra third in. I don't, but okay, you're doing it. Any effort for housing affordability at all goes out the window if you can't do the smaller lots. Right now, the lowest we go down is R6. I would offer R2 and R4. Now, I know some people would just absolutely fall completely out over that idea. So to try to anticipate y'all's negative opposition in advance, what I did was let's restrict it. Because this is specifically for pocket neighborhoods where you got the residential that stops 5 acres in the middle, and then you got the highway and the commercial development. So it would not be large, sprawling, but it would be for developers who want to have some effort and commitment to housing affordability. It would be pocket neighborhoods. If you do R2, the maximum it could be is 10 acres. That's it. So nobody can go buy 100 acres and put 2,000 houses. I mean, everybody would absolutely just lose their mind. So it's just targeting pocket neighborhoods and micro communities. R4 would be 20 acres, max, okay? None of it would be left up to the staff or that planning commission. They all would have to go, all these would have to go to council. It does get rid of open space. So if you don't like it, don't want any of it in your district, you sitting right here, you can say no. But for the people who do want it and see the value of it and who want to try to provide housing affordability for law enforcement and nurses and teachers and EMS and firefighters, that's what we're trying to do. I don't know. Oh, Mr. Collins is not here. Were you at, Kyle? Up until 2022, the median income person in Greenville could afford the median priced house in Greenville. Since 2022, both Greenville and Spartanburg, that number has dropped precipitously, where fewer and fewer people who earn the median income can even afford a median priced house. Okay? Let me give you a true story of how this would work. Number one, it's got to have water and sewer. So Mr. Bradley and I talked very little of it. Probably none of it would ever end up in his district. None of it would ever end up in Mr. Russo's district. None of it would end up anywhere anybody didn't want it. It would be infield and limited. There's an older couple in my district. She's in her early 80s, and I guess the husband has got to be 90. And before they die, they want to leave their legacy and do something in the area of housing affordability. Well, they only got 4 acres. Well, not much you can do. Now, there's no sewer. So under current law, the most they can do is 8 houses on the 4 acres because there's no sewer. I've had Metro look at it a couple of times. No. However, because we're not going to run, they're only a quarter mile away, but we're not going to run a quarter mile and it's rural, it's woods everywhere. It backs up to the Saluda River. So they're like, we're not. If you had higher density there or they had a plan, we would do it. So if you went with R4, now that 4 acres is now 40 houses. Now Metro is willing to run the sewer down that little street. There's nothing but woods on both sides. And then they could leave their legacy and do something positive. And it really wasn't my idea originally, Josh. It was from the Planning Commission. Because they were like, if you're going to get rid of cluster completely, you basically have just shut the door on any housing affordability in Greenville. So if you're going to do that, go with R2 and R4, it leaves some housing affordability options, and I tried to limit it so it couldn't be a runaway train. It would only be micro communities, and it would all have to be approved by council. Now, there wouldn't be some back door, we get hit with it and you get lit up on the phone. Go ahead, Mr. McGahee.
I'll ask a question first.
Go ahead, you go first.
I've been trying to process this, just thinking about, for example, where staff had recommended denial on something and the plan commission recommended approval, and it was based on a previous plan. So my question is, with something that is as dense as, I mean, we're looking at, if they do R2, they could do, what, 200 plus houses on 10 acres?
Max, yep.
Do 217.
How would that fit into a past format of whether it meets certain criteria of our plans if we're adding that much extra density to a particular area? Does that make sense with the question I'm trying to ask? Is, what would be the scenario where you would suddenly have the availability for this kind of density under our current plans?
I will say, under our current comprehensive plan, we do have future land use categories that call for density up to 30 units per acre, which are going to be, more centralized, more dense urban areas typically, which we currently don't have any standard zoning districts that would allow for density that high.
So I guess that's my question, is how, if we did approve that, when would we start seeing that there would be, what scenarios would they actually be recommended as approval based on our current plans that we have?
Well, ask Josh, because I heard he did such an outstanding job on putting this together.
Like you said, a lot of this is going to be for infill. The infill, but I would say the majority, I wouldn't say all, and I don't have it in front of me, but is going to be those future land use districts or future land use categories that are going to call for a more dense type development. Those 3 to 5 units per acre, something even higher than that. So we'll go in that direction. Like you said, we're not going to see this out in rural areas. It's just you're not going to see it. This is geared for developing in those infill lots that you're just not going to yield the amount of units for the space. So.
And then, are there any? I know in some of our other zonings, does this have any special exceptions? Because right now it's single family detached, correct?
Oh yeah, that's right. I did think about y'all some more. I said, no, he said, what about double wide? Oh no, they'll probably be against that too. So when there are no double wides, it would only be single family detached homes only.
And so there'd be no special exceptions for townhomes or anything like that?
Currently, I think the way this reads, it does allow, and this can easily be changed. It does allow for single family attached in the R2 and R4. There's a caveat on setbacks where, in townhomes, the setbacks could be different because if it's attached, you don't have the internal setback. But that could easily be removed from the proposed use table.
I didn't have a problem with that part. If y'all want to take the townhome piece out, that's fine. I knew I was trying to think of all the no's and the negatives. I figured the double wides would be a problem. I figured too much of it allowed would be a problem. So that's why we put the 10 acres and the 20 acres and no modulars, and just tailored it specifically for infill toward urban areas.
As single-family homes, it wouldn't be a 3-story building where it could be a duplex or.
No, and if you want to limit it to single family only and not see down here in the bottom, it does allow for townhomes. I don't care. That part doesn't bother me. The double wides bothered me, and it going forever bothered me. And I really wanted to limit it to special use cases.
And duplexes will be permitted as well. And the reason for that is because if you look under condition 10 now, R6, R7.5, and R10 allow for duplexes. They're more urbanized districts. So I thought that it'd be okay to just include that in there for duplexes because, once again, they're good for infill, and that's what this is catered towards.
And if it helps, I don't own any property where this would go.
I did have one.
I know what rolls around in people's minds, so I just want to throw that out. I own nothing where this would go.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question, Councilman Fan, and maybe I did not get this correct, and I apologize. Are we wanting to put a max of the property if I own the piece of property and it's 25 acres, so I couldn't do R4, but could I say I'm only going to use the 20 acres of that total acreage to get the density? Is that, you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Do we want to limit as far as you can't have more than that acreage, or you can't use more?
You can't use more.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Because that will give you less.
That's how I did it. So we're
that
good.
would
Okay,
be better.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may. Mr. Fant. So just if, I am a Marine in my past life, so 21 times 10, or 21.7 is 217 units on 10 acres. That is a really small house if they're going to do non-attached. Are we talking like 200 square foot houses? I mean, maybe these tiny homes, is that what we're talking? Because if that's what we're going to be, there's no way you're fitting 217 single-family houses on 10 acres. It's going to be really tight. Like, I lived in California too, probably tighter than that. So I guess what I'm saying is, and then for 10.9 times 200, the same thing. So really, when you do the math on those, they're almost the same exact zoning. Am I wrong?
Say that one more time. I was asking Megan about the square footage of the homes.
If you do 21.7 times 10 or 10.9 times 20, isn't that about the same math?
It is.
It is.
So what's the difference?
It would be the lot size.
The lot size.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you were amicable to saying it's only single-family homes. How many single-family homes could you put on 10 acres by our current regulations?
Well, on 10 acres, under what zoning district?
Let's just say the next one up, R6.
R6, you'd be,
So I can't tell because it was at 7.3?
yeah, it's 7.3. I apologize, that shifted that down whenever I saved it as a PDF.
That's okay.
7.3 units per acre.
So right now, we go from 73 to
210.
Yeah.
So triple.
That's correct.
Triple the amount of cars, triple the amount of stuff on the infrastructure. I mean, come on.
It's in localized, small, urban areas. And the likelihood of somebody doing that is unlikely. If you want to cut it down some more, do it. But we can't just say, we're going to get rid of cluster and we're not going to do R2 and R4. I mean, you just can't have it all.
We hadn't got rid of clusters yet.
Yeah, but it's on the way.
It may or may not be, we'll see. So in the meantime, we entertaining something that we may or may not need to.
I would just say, as far as an opinion, that I know we tend to hold everything now, but I would not hold to put it off, but to further the discussion as we're getting closer to this decision on cluster two. Because I was wondering where this came from, but I do remember somebody mentioned this from the planning commission area, so I think I know where that's from now. But when it comes to density in more dense areas, municipalities and all, I completely get where this would fill a void if we take cluster away, especially if it's single family detached, which to me is another thing that we're missing in Greenville County, is pushing people towards home ownership, and it gives them more chance to that. So I would just say that I wish these were running more parallel to each other so we could kind of work on all this at the same time versus this one coming after. We don't know what's going to happen with the cluster yet, but it is quite a bit of density, and I know when it comes to my district, I only speak for mine, but that's going to turn a bunch of red flags up as soon as they see 200 homes on 10 acres. But if we talk through the cluster publicly and they understand why that's going away, it might be something that they would be okay with. I don't know.
I still need to be educated here. This came Friday, and I was out of town this weekend, so I apologize. I didn't see this till Friday, so I didn't get a chance to ask staff and ask questions yet. But please explain to me the difference between the 21.7 units per 10 acres and 10.9 per 20. What's the difference? I still don't understand.
So the acreage is determined off of the square footage of an acre, which is 43,560 square feet. So every one of those numbers is determined off of the lot size, the minimum lot size. So if the 6,000, 7,500, 10,000, whatever it may be, divided by that 43,560, or no, multiplied. Either way, that's where you get that number. So it's not just where I just picked a number. It's actually a formula that's used by the minimum lot size and the size of an acre.
And then with all the setbacks that are in there, you can still get 21.7 units per acre in a 10-acre lot?
No, I don't think you would ever get the full 21.7 acres.
So how is that in
Once you
there?
take out your infrastructure, your stormwater, your roads, buffers and all that kind of stuff, you're still going to, you're not going to reach that, you'll never reach that maximum yield.
Unless they build up.
They could go up.
Okay.
Well, maybe if they
Not if
can't
it's-
reach that
Well,
maximum
not if
yield.
it's single family.
Go up, okay, they could go up in the essence of, they still have a height restriction of 45 feet, and it has to remain a single family. They can't just turn it into multifamily, because then if it's R2 and R4, multifamily is not permitted. So somehow they would have to do it, and I don't know if a condo, horizontal property regime or something like that, but that would be the only way. You can't just go up, because then you're going to become multifamily.
I think it has good merit, and I didn't hear anything about it till Friday, when Dr. Fant called me. I've been in Proverbs this week, studying Proverbs, and Proverbs suggest that you hunt counsel when you're making a decision. And I would ask this council to put this on hold and let us look at all angles before we rush into something that we just seen Friday.
I'll be honest with y'all, this was in anticipation of y'all getting rid of cluster. And the developers freaking out. And then it's sort of like, well, I mean, I know some people could care less about affordable housing, but even if you don't care about it, we still got to have an open mind about it and recognize the need for it. So this was done clearly in anticipation of y'all getting rid of cluster. If you don't get rid of cluster, this can just go in a closet somewhere. So this was specifically to go in parallel with getting rid of, because you can't get rid of cluster and then don't do something as an offset. Guess you could, but.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I'm going to say what no one else will say, and I usually do. I've been on here 5 months, and I've said a lot of things no one said for years. I'm going to say it is, I haven't met a developer that walks in and goes, you know what? I just want to do something great for the community. Right? No, don't laugh and snicker. It's the truth, because it's the gorilla sitting in the room. It's the truth. There's no developer uses cluster because it's better for the community. They use it because it's cheaper. They have to move less land and they make more money and they get more density. So it's all pluses for the developer and all minuses for the community. Now, you can say it's affordable. That's great. And the whole affordable housing scam that people have been selling me about cheaper this and cheaper that and 20% units, and the developers are killing it and still charging a ton of money. And it's really, if you look at the AMI, those apartments they're not even really still affordable with the AMI. So I think it's total El Toro poo-poo, as my history teacher in high school used to say. But what I will say is, the developers want to get as many houses as they can and move as less dirt. Dirt is expensive to move, so they have to move less dirt, and they get a third more than they would if they moved all the dirt. Why wouldn't you sign up for that? Now that's why the developers are mad. They're mad because their profits are going to be hurt. But I'm not here to represent the developers. I'm here to represent the community and the citizens. And to allow this the way it goes and say, take away cluster and it's a horrible thing, that's not true as far as I'm saying. I'm willing to look at the merits of what you've put forward and why that makes sense. But to me, right now, it doesn't make sense. And, I'm willing to hold it. I'm also willing to kill it. But I think it's something we need to look at again. And, it's great for the developers to put as much as they can without having to move dirt. I get it. But the community, I've not heard one positive thing. And, there's a cluster development, my district going on right now. Those are going to be twice the AMI. So the whole affordable housing thing crumbles because they're putting $1 million condos in. It's not affordable. You know, I'm not a policeman or a firefighter or a teacher. I can't afford those either. So to say that they were using this for affordability, what I've seen it being used for so far is not affordable housing.
Mr. Chairman. So just to double check this, is this the maximum, essentially this is the maximum density that we could have had for these, for R2 and R4?
That's correct, yes. That's not, I mean, yeah, this is the maximum density that they would not be permitted to go above that number. That does not mean that the development is going to have that. You know, like I said, once you start putting in all the other features of a development, that density starts coming down.
Well, I guess my question would be, how much down from the 21.78 units could we go and still have the chance for these to be more affordable parcels? Like instead of 21.78, how far down could we come to where it might reduce that concern about density a little bit, but it's still not going to be out
What
of
if we
range?
did this? Because what he's saying is correct. I mean, that's just simple math, but it would never be 200 and something houses, because you got the buffers, you got the setbacks, you got the roads, the curbs, you got those little retention ponds, all that will eat into that and draw that number down. What if we got one of the engineers to do a sample of 10 acres and put some roads in using setbacks and buffers and give us an idea of how many it would be, so we don't just kill it by thinking, well, it's going to be 200 houses there.
Yeah, that's what I just think that would be a better, if we're going to enter into two new zonings that are more dense than what we currently have, it would be a better representation of what it would look like versus the public that looks into this, and, you know, we have smart public, then they start drawing their own diagrams and they're going to see what it could look like, and it could be catastrophic. So that's the only reason I would suggest holding it too, is just so we could maybe look at that to make it more reasonable to people when they see it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm perfectly fine with holding it. I think it makes sense to see what happens with cluster. I would be unreasonable to say, let's just go anyway. And if getting rid of cluster fails, there's no need to proceed with this, okay? And I will get one of the local engineers to try to do a sample of what it would look like and show the maximum number of houses it really would be, once you take into account the roads and setbacks and buffers and retention ponds. And then it may be 15 houses or 14.
And that's actually what I was looking at it and thinking that if it was 15 and you add that number up, it looks a lot better than going from 75 to 200 and something. It's not going to be, it's still going to be a lot more, but it's not going to be quite as much. So.
And do y'all, I mean, am I the only one that's against open space requirements? I don't really seem to hear pushback. I don't like having to spend money for land that I can't use, that just green. I didn't have any green space. When I grew up, played in the backyard and played in the street. And when the cars came, you just got out the way. I mean, and I turned out pretty fine.
You can come play on Anderson Ridge Road. I'm sure they love it.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think that's my hardest issue with zoning in general, with the open space part, is that you're taking land that was purchased by a property owner and telling them, well, you can do what you want up to this much, but then you'd have to compact it in this area and leave this other area alone that's your own land. So that's to me, something like this would make more sense than cluster if we get everything worked out the right way. It would make more sense to the property owner, I think.
Takes the issue with the infield that I always would like to see.
Right.
But, so are you making that a motion?
No, you said you were the whole.
I know how to count. Yeah, I'm holding it. Gee. Make a motion hold.
All in favor to hold?
Aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, item number 8 is a request to initiate a text amendment to the Greenville County zoning ordinance for section 8:5 and article 4 for the ESDPM and the definitions. And I think, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at this because I am the one that was going to present it. Counselor Shaw is also heavily involved in this, so he may be able to speak to it more than I can. But essentially, this ordinance is really, it is to kind of piggyback off of the one that we currently have out on the floor, I believe, right now, and he can correct me if I'm wrong. The environmentally protected zoning that we all had to deal with the issue with the hotel recently. We didn't, but Travelers Rest did. Showed us that there are some potential loopholes that could be used. And I'm sure if you could tell by the red shirts, they'll agree with us that their biggest concern is making sure that Paris Mountain remains an environmentally protected area, which is why the overlay was placed there. So this text amendment is pretty broad compared to the other one. And I have talked to the attorney who said that there are some legal concerns in it, but that it is something we could start moving forward on and then address those. So this essentially is just an additional way to close the loopholes on the overlay that we currently have to ensure that it is protecting far beyond what any other zoning would, the Paris Mountain area and the environment and things related to that with development. And Councilor Shaw could speak to that additionally if there's anything in specific he wanted to point out, because I know there's a lot in this one to unpack.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, name and address for the record?
Name and address. 27th. Thank you, Chairman Bradley and Chairman Blunt. I agree with what you're saying. One of the things we're trying to avoid here, especially on Paris Mountain, was the applicants and the city that was interested in annexing it was cleverly actually twisting the protections we put to make it sound like by annexing it, they could even give it more and greater protections. And so in order to shore up the protections we have, Greenville County has for the Paris Mountain, we wanted to make sure, and Councilman Blunt's right, we had the help with an attorney, that we are protecting it to the point where we're not going to get criticized for not protecting it enough. And this would help that.
And if I'm correct, and there are, I think there are different things in this that doesn't specifically pertain to Altamont Road, which was the main part of the last text amendment we had, and this addresses more of the issues all around it as well, but should give more protection to the Altamont Road area too.
Correct. I think in council right now, we already have the Altamont Road loop, the developer loophole is what we called it. I think it's at third reading now. So this is separate in that it beefs up the definitions, and it also specifies more protections in these different areas, as you can see in the text. But that's what was happening. They were being very clever in the way they were actually selling the annexation, that it was going to protect it more.
Yeah, and I'll share with my colleagues on the committee. Speaking with the attorney, he did say that there were some things in it, but he said that they were things that he would think that if we move this forward because of timing and everything else, that they would be easy to kind of point out and address and fix before we finish the votes of full council. So he can get a list of those things together and we can discuss as well.
Do we, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Do we have a copy of all those, like what these are, and was that sent to us? Did I miss it in the email? You're just telling us you're going to do it. Great, I'm all for that, but I would like to see what they are.
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier when I thought we were on this one, that it appeared that the ordinance wasn't on the green sheet.
Well, let me tell you, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. Let me address that if I can. At this stage, this is a request to initiate the text amendment. I think Mr. Antley, whom you're referring to, he's working on the actual ordinance, and I think he will probably have it ready if the committee decides to accept the request and send it forward to council. Once council initiates the text amendment, then you will definitely have a full-blown ordinance at that point that will have to go through the entire zoning process. So this is just a request to initiate the zoning text amendment process. And if the committee voted to send this request forward at full council before anything got first reading, you would have to have the actual ordinance in your hand. So this is a request for council to initiate that process.
Yep, and that's, I'd asked him if it would be best to submit this through committee or through council, and because of that the way that our process goes, if we submitted it through council, it would basically go there, be kicked back, and go somewhere else. It would just be extra steps. So I figured initiate it here, and then we could address, obviously, before we get to third reading and get everything addressed that is concerning to our legal staff.
I got a light note.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
I got 2 calls today, right, about this.
Oh,
And 2, I don't even know them. I mean, they gave me their
are
names.
you going to
It's
name
not like
names or what?
I don't. They gave me their names, but I mean, I don't know. I just listen, and they hurry up and told me, "Now this is not coming from Mr. Shaw. This comes from Mr. Blunt." Like I was going to be a no, just because it was you. So we got to do a better job of the public assuming that just because it's you, I'm against it. 'Cause they hurt both people. Both people went out of their way to make me know that it wasn't coming from Mr. Shaw, but it was Mr. Blunt that's doing it. I'm like, okay, thank you for
Oh,
letting
that's
me
good
know.
to know. That's a good.
I don't think I have that much
That's a lie.
extra
Don't
influence.
take it seriously.
No, we'll
I
use
thought it was funny.
We'll use it to
Right.
our advantage.
No, I think ultimately, for the people in the room too, I think that the real goal to this is just to really address any kind of potential loopholes that this environmentally protected zoning could have, and ensure that the people that live in and around Paris Mountain area are sure that that's not going to be manipulated in the future. So I don't think there's anything in it based on what I've seen that's going to be hard to work out and figure out and bring something forward that everybody's going to be happy with.
Just make a motion to pass the recommendation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass.
Aye.
Passed. The next motion, I need a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.